Now let us continue with the 37 practices of a Bodhisattva. We are looking at the 4 types of behaviors that one needs to give up. We are talking about the 4th one, which is giving up uttering harsh words. Harsh words disturb the minds of others and cause the Bodhisattva's conduct to degenerate. Therefore, it is the practice of Bodhisattvas to give up harsh words, which are unpleasant for others. Failing to examine the faults of one's speech, one may utter extremely harsh words and thereby disturb the minds of others. Moreover, in this way, one falls away from excellent conduct. For when bodhisattvas speak, they must speak gently, in a balance with a pleasant way. Therefore, to utter harsh words is a great fault. At times when we are speaking to the others, we should speak gently to the others. If you were to speak harshly, then it could harm the others, and that would break your bodhisattva vow. Hence, when speaking to others, to first examine and then to refrain from uttering any harsh words that will be unpleasant for the listeners is the practice of whereby all bodhisattvas give up unpleasant talk. As the Abhidharma treasury states, harsh words are those that are unpleasant. Harsh words are the kinds of the bad words or the words that would cause unpleasant feelings in the sentient beings. So we need to give them up. Harsh words are those unpleasant words which, when brought forth by any of those 3 poisons, become the basis for tormenting the minds of those sentient beings towards whom they are directed. The motivation of harsh words are out of either ignorance or desire or aggression. So any of those 3 poisons. Harsh words can be expressed in a number of ways. They may be true or false. They may concern someone's family, 3 doors, discipline, etc. Even if you were to speak of the truth, it is still not appropriate. If it is false, if your harsh words are of the false words, then that is slandering. If someone is wrong, then you can simply speak truly to them, but not necessarily with harsh words. And if you were to speak of others' family or disposition or 3 doors or discipline, and the other person has already understood it, then it would be negative deeds. If you were to use, for example, Hindi or a different language that the other person doesn't understand, then it is not a full or complete negative deed. But if the other person already understood it and out of anger you speak of harsh words and the other person understood it, then you've already lost your bodhisattva vow. So over here it says that they may incite others to criticize in a way that will be understood by a particular third party. If one expresses oneself in any way gentle or harsh with a motivation that is not entirely benevolent, the expression is to be classified as harsh words. So benevolent motivation is really important. If, for example, a teacher were to scold the student or parents were to scold the children out of a benevolent motivation, then that doesn't count as harsh words. But if you were to carry out those kinds of words not entirely benevolent, then the expression is to be classified as harsh words. In the scripture that demonstrates the effects of karma, numerous shortcomings of harsh words are taught. The Compendium of Training says, quoting from the sutra, no bodhisattva should utter words that harm sentient beings. The same is the case with words that cause anguish or are pleasant or are unpleasant or painful. Having given up such mistaken ways of expression, one must always be gentle and without frivolousness. Quoting in the similar way, which is from the same text, the Compendium of Training, it explains further that one must speak gently, softly, and delightfully. Likewise, from the supreme continuity, it says that which comes first for a bodhisattva with respect to benefiting all sentient beings is pleasant talk. There are people who are quite cultured and has a gentle mind, then whatever they speak or whenever they speak, it is a pleasant talk. From the way of the bodhisattva, when speaking, I should speak appropriately and the truth, with clear meaning and pleasantly, not motivated out of desire and hatred should I speak, but gently and in moderation. From Letter to a Friend, the victorious one said that there is pleasant speech, true speech, and false speech. There are 3 types of speech. First one, pleasant, second, true, and the third one is false. Now, all of those words can be like honey, like flowers, and like excrement. Among these 3 ways of speaking, give up the last. Nowadays, well, we can say that the pleasant speech are just like honey, and then true speech are like flowers. So the true speech doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be too straightforward, because that could be also quite or too sharp. Or the false speech, which are just like the excrement, which is the one that we need to give up. So the false speech, the speech that create schism, the kind of speech of slandering, all of those kinds of speech need to be given up. The habits of the people nowadays tend to have the habitual tendency of using vulgar and coarse language. There are people who are not eloquent at quoting from the great teachers or great masters, great noble ones. Rather, they're very eloquent at speaking of vulgar language. The victorious one taught that sentient beings use 3 kinds of speech: speaking pleasantly in a way that the listener appreciates, speaking the truth, and speaking falsely. Those words are, respectively, the one that makes others happy and are like honey, the one that are beautiful, praiseworthy, and like flower, the one that are condemnable like excrement. Among these 3 kinds of words, rely on the first 2 and give up the last. Thus, faulty speech is generally to be shunned. Furthermore, from Lord Atisha, those words that are unpleasant to the minds of others, a wise one threw them far away. People tend to talk about EQ, the emotional intelligence, or people who are very good at communicating with the others. There are people who are very skillful at relating to the others, which could be called the wise ones. The wise ones would throw all the unpleasant words and not harm the others, as well as always smiling and with a mind full of love, speak well and without anger. Karakpa said the following: do not cast the poisonous arrow of harsh words. Give up anger, an evil state of mind. Chikagwa advised, never get caught in the cycle of realization and never strike at the heart. One must not utter harsh words in return for the harsh words uttered by others. So we should not use the harsh words or coarse words. And we should not be revengeous when it comes to when others use harsh words to us, and we should not return those harsh words to the others. Moreover, do not speak crude words such as curses and proclamations of people's hidden faults. People nowadays, out of their habitual pattern, they wanted to strike at the hearts of of the others. They want to speak of the faults of the others. That is really not appropriate. Moreover, from Gyaltse Tokme himself, much talk may produce bad karma. If you talk too much, then naturally you would just speak of false words or frivolous words, and then that would create negative karma. A few days ago, I said that out of anger, if you were to curse the others or speak of harsh words to the others, you need to record it. I'm not sure if you started recording that. Now, we should not use a bad expression against anyone. In addition, he would never call anyone simply by their names, but instead, he over here refers to Gyaltse Tokme himself, would use respectful titles such as Lama, teacher, master, acharya, geshi, chief. He would use respectful titles to address them, not only to the ones that's respectful to his even servant or to his attendant. He calls his attendant Dacang as teacher Dacang. I think if a person were to be respectful to you, then the way that they address the others would naturally be respectful. But if a person were to have lots of affliction and not cultured enough, then their speech would be rather quite crude, and their speech would strike the heart of the others or the hidden weakness of the others. These kinds of speech are the speech without right mindfulness. The four dharmas, examining one's confusion so that it may be dispelled and so forth, which are the topics of the past 3 chapters, are to be found in the sutra inspiring supreme intentions. If we do not make observation of ourselves with right mindfulness, and though we may appear to be practicing virtuous deeds, our actions may very much be not dharmic. To give you an example, as an ordained monastic, we have already shaven off our hair. But if we were to have only this kind of appearance but not practicing Dharma, then this is what this particular stanza is referring to. Similarly, the lay practitioners, though we call ourselves as Buddhists, but from our action we do all kinds of non-dharmic things. If we do not make observation with the right mindfulness, if we were to violate the teachings given by the teachers, that is extremely inappropriate. We need to make observation of it. So over here it makes an conclusion or a summarization of the previous 4 trainings or 4 things that we need to give up. The sutra states the following material: if a person of the Bodhisattva vehicle is endowed with the 4 dharmas, he will, at the time of destruction of the dharma in the last 500 years, be free of harm and injury and become blissfully liberated. What are these 4 dharmas? To analyze one's own confusion, not to expose the faults of others, not to expose the faults of other individuals of the Bodhisattva vehicle, not to regard the residences of your friends, etc., as a source of alm, and give up uttering unpleasant words. Now, the first one is to analyze one's own faults. Nowadays, I think mundane beings don't do that. They analyze only others' faults, others' confusions. The second one is not to expose the faults of others. We should not speak of the faults of the others. This is the teaching that we've already studied. You need to keep that as a close practice of yours. I think our problem is that we can remember the teachings for 2 or 3 days, but we don't remember it for a long time. There are people who can remember for their entire life, the ones with a sharp capacity, but I think majority of us only remember for 2 or 3 days. In this way, the Dharma teaching would not be meaningful. Initially, I thought that there are a few stanzas and we would be able to finish it very quickly. And in the future, I would like to give teachings on Ponzo Rinpoche's teachings on the extraordinary teachings. I'm not too sure about the time yet. Let's see how it goes. Within our daily life, it could be very difficult to practice the Dharma teachings. But you need to remember the teachings given over here. The first one is you need to only analyze our own confusion. The second one is do not expose the faults of others. And the third one is not to regard the residence of your friends, etc., as sources for alms. This is to say that do not pay too much attention and do not grasp onto your patrons and your family and friends and relatives. As a practitioner, if you do that every day, then you would not have time and freedom to practice for yourself. And then the last one is to give up uttering unpleasant words. Practice upon that. Other than that, there is nothing else.